Welcome to the NWI.com Political Roundtable for Tuesday, July 23rd. I'm Robert Blaskowitz, Assistant Managing Editor of The Times. Join with me today, Doug Ross, Editorial Page Editor of The Times. And we're coming to you a little bit earlier than we usually do in the week. But we still have some, I think, interesting topics to talk about.
Definitely.
Let's start off talking about a story that Dan Carden had in today's edition on the Pence administration in its quest to discredit Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, came out with some numbers that indicated that they believe that the impact of the Affordable Care Act would be to cause insurance rates for individuals to go up 72%. Well, people obviously who want to defend the Affordable Care Act took a closer look at these numbers and found them a little bit lacking, didn't they, Doug?
Well, right. I mean, exactly. They talked about a 72% increase. The Senate Democrats, the Indiana Democratic Party, they said, no, wait a minute. They looked at the numbers and said, first of all, there are three levels. Basically you can get three types of insurance through the, these health exchanges and whatnot. And so you have, they're not color coding it, they're metallically coding it, I guess, with gold and silver and bronze.
Yeah, basically they were taking the lowest rate that's currently charged to an individual that's purchasing coverage directly from a health insurance provider, then comparing it to an average of every possible rate, including like your most costly Cadillac plan available
which
next year.
Very few are going to take.
Right. And it also completely excluded employer provided health care plans, which most of us who are employed have.
And for larger employers, at least.
Right. And apparently the cost of those is expected to go up an average of 8% next year, an increase, but actually a smaller increase than it's been trending lately.
Right, and what the Democrats are saying is, okay, you want to look at a real example of how this is going to work. Don't use your worst case scenario and then use that as your only scenario. Take a look at Romney Care, the experience of Massachusetts when Republican Governor Mitt Romney brought in, a very similar thing, and look at what types of plans people bought back then, and that's really. The Romney Care was, I guess I'm calling it that. I'm not sure everybody else does, but that was, pretty well the forerunner of Obamacare. And so, look at that for a good example of how things might work. And like you say, people aren't going to take the most expensive plan. They're going to take, either the cheapest or the middle of the road senorio plan.
I think the interesting thing about this issue is just the tension, the fundamental tension for Governor Pence in this. And he's obviously, when he was in Congress, he was vehemently opposed to the Affordable Care Act, and still thinks that it's bad for the country. He would like to see it repealed. But on the other hand, as governor of the state of Indiana, he's got an obligation to citizens to serve them and see that they're best able to take advantage of the benefits in the Affordable Care Act. Well, how do you balance one with the other?
Well, and in this case, show me the data, show me all the data, crunch the numbers, and then put your spin on them, but give me all the numbers. And I think that's what the administration did not do, the Pence administration, and that's what I followed them for.
And then, the other big thing that they're not doing is they're not expanding Medicaid, which is, a lot of other states are doing it, but many Republican states, including our own, have basically said, no, we're not going to expand Medicaid. It's extra expenses, and even though that expense would be primarily taken on by the federal government, it's something that we're not going to see here in Indiana. So,
or maybe not. I guess we'll see what the federal government does.
It's
really a really complicated issue, and we're going to hear a lot more.
They've won. Well, the Pence administration said they wanted to use that HIP, the Healthy Indiana plan, to expand coverage. The indications seem to be that the federal government was going to go along with that plan, but we haven't heard a final answer on that.
No.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Right. Right. Well, let's move over to Gary, where we continue to see, and we just had one last night, I think the 31st, or
Right.
Homicide in the city. So it's basically the pace of homicides are far outpacing what they were last year. And it's kind of the most visible, newsworthy example, but there's a lot of other issues in Gary in terms of infrastructure and
Right.
and blight and other things that Mayor Karen Freeman Wilson is looking for help from both the state and the federal government, and she's had kind of mixed success so far. What kind of response is she getting in asking for help for Gary with their problems?
Well, I think she's getting some success, especially at the federal level. You'll remember when she ran for office, there were the ties to Barack Obama, and
Sure.
and so there was the
Fellow Harvard grad.
Exactly. I mean, there was the idea that this would maybe help Gary get some ends in the federal government. Well, and I don't know whether it's because of that connection or whether it's because of, you'll remember when Evan Bayh was still in office, in the Senate, I should say, he was talking about how the federal government would put in these coalitions and sort of an interagency task force, I guess is what they were calling them, where it would be different agencies coming together and finding ways where they can help Gary. Well, most recently we've seen Housing and Urban Development, the EPA, Department of Transportation all come together and pool funding so that they can help Gary rehabilitate some neighborhoods on the north side, and hopefully, finally knock down the Sheraton Hotel. That's been the symbol of blight.
That's the big eyesore that you got right in the middle of the city, right next to City Hall.
I mean, to me, that hotel is to the city of Gary what the statue of Saddam Hussein was to Iraq. They brought down the statue.
It was a little easier to take down the statue. You just had some guys with some ropes, and they were able to.
Exactly.
You need a little bit more to take down the Sheraton.
But it's been talked about for a long time. I mean, that was one of the, Karen Freeman Wilson, bless her heart, set out all these metrics of things that her administration would accomplish, and that was one of the first items on it. So, she's going to have to be held accountable, and she's going to have to make sure, she's talking now by the end of the year, getting that down. That's going to take some work.
Yeah. Well, how about on the crime front? She's asked for this help from the state with state troopers, bringing state troopers into the city. It appears that the HIDA, which is the High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area Agency, or that primarily deals with the drug trade, but they are going to step in and help with some of these unsolved homicides, because a lot of them are gang related to the drug trade. They kind of really go together.
Right, and that makes sense, because that's again, that's an interagency, local agencies, but an interagency task force. And there's some federal involvement in there too, I should say, and in fact even reaches across into Porter County now. So there's a good brain trust, and it looks at this as a nexus of crime, or one of the nexuses of nexi, whatever it is, of crime in Northwest Indiana. And so you really need to address that in a joint fashion. Now the idea of bringing the state troopers in to give some relief to help the Gary police focus on some of these as well.
And Pence has kind of his initial response has been to ask kind of for more specifics in terms of how long. I think he wants more concrete answers in terms of how long do you want these troopers for, specifically for what. And
I can't fault him
for that. And it does put some onus, I think, on the city to come up with a concrete plan in terms of attacking this huge problem.
And frankly, I think Pence's response is a good lesson to those in Northwest Indiana to say, if you're reaching out for assistance, be specific, come up with a plan, deliver the plan, and have the plan, detail exactly what you are asking for.
Right. Well, let's move on to our final topic of the day, and it kind of stems from a story we had, I believe, in Monday's edition. It was a preview of a new exhibit that's going on at Fair Oaks Farm. Fair Oaks Farm, down to the south of us, has become this huge tourist draw.
Right.
And it's a place that we've probably both been visited with our kids.
Best grilled cheese ever.
Yeah, going there. My son's class guy. I got to go visit there with my son's class and see the really incredible operation in terms of the dairy cows and how they have that huge circular area where they milk them and everything. But anyway, the Fair Oaks is kind of continuing to expand, and their newest attraction there is this pig adventure, I think.
Right.
It is.
Right.
So it's kind of adding pigs to the whole mix. And so our story on Monday talked about that thing, and also, you know, kind of the tourism factor there. But what we got was a lot of feedback from some readers who are very concerned from an animal rights standpoint about what these kind of large scale factory type farms are doing.
Right, and they're, you know, referred to as combined animal feeding operations.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, the idea is you bring them all together, you fatten them up, and then you slaughter them, which
Mm-hmm.
is, you know,
Which is
if you eat meat, that's you know, that's
the
how it
reality
works.
of what
exactly.
we do. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, bacon's really popular nowadays. So what I think the people who've been, you know, pushing back don't realize is that the people at Fair Oaks have gotten, you know, a lot of awards and recognition from the federal government, from the state government, because they've been doing things right.
And that's part of the tour that you take, is you kind of see kind of how the kind of the waste products are turned into energy, and,
right,
and that kind of thing. So it's you know, in that way, they are probably one of the greener large scale farms out there.
Right, and you have to look at, you know, when you have a lot of animals in one area, there is a lot of waste. You know, you look at people that don't really realize how it all works. Look at things like, you know, the beaches closing, for instance, because of E. coli, and then some of that was because of livestock, geese, and other, you know, animal waste going into the streams that fed into Lake Michigan, that polluted the beaches, that, you know, closed it to swimmers, and so, you know, they're looking at that, and they're not seeing the steps have been taken to address that, I think, and frankly, they're you know, that's the environmental aspect, and they're the animal rights people that just, you know, anything that promotes eating meat, they're not going to.
Right. That said, there is something to be said for reducing the amount of meat we eat, both from a health standpoint and from an environmental standpoint, because it does suck up more. You know, domesticated animals do suck up more resources, and then consuming them uses more resources than it would to just eat more vegetables or beans or grains and things like that. But
this is a look at farming that you know, kids are not going to in particular will you know, probably not see it done any other way, because they don't have access to a regular dairy
and the
farm.
fact that the public is regularly coming through there, I think, is almost, you know, a testament to, you know, they really need to keep things clean and well run, because the public is coming through there all the time.
Exactly, and you know, and they've got plans. You know, they've you know, come together, and frankly, they get a lot of recognition. I'm getting you know, a lot of people complaining about it, but I get a lot of people who are saying what a great idea to show kids, you know, what agriculture can be like done well.
Yeah. Well, that's all the time we have this week. Thanks for watching, and we'll be back next week with another Political Roundtable.